Sailing for days in the open sea, hunting the blood of my enemies, searching for gold with Gilmekki, we're the pirates of the coast.
Hello, everybody. This is Rich, and you are watching Black Sails, Apocalypse World, and Running. This is the kind of fan show that I do with my buddy. How are you doing, Josh?
You're doing well.
Fantastic. I love your little subtitle-y thing of ours.
I never know what to put on for this thing.
Well, that's as good as anything. So we're going to talk about the third episode of first season of Black Sails, which is a show on Stars that you can buy individual episodes if you don't have Stars. Amazon Instant Video. I was half tempted to buy one today just so I could watch a little bit of it at work, because for some reason, while Stars doesn't come through, Amazon Instant Video makes it through the work firewall. That's how dedicated I am to studying up on this episode. And then we're going to talk about it as if the Black Sails show was a series of sessions of the RPG Apocalypse World. I assume anyone watching this knows what I'm talking about, but just in case, Apocalypse World by D. Vincent Baker, one of my favorite RPGs. And then at the end, we just selfishly for us, we talk about jogging/running.
Yay!
Indeed. All right, so what happened in in episode 3 of first season, Josh?
Okay, so here's the quick rundown. This episode's kind of weak, but we forgive it because it has 2 fantastic scenes in it. But the first half of the episode is a lot of exposition, a lot of rehashing what characters are up to and what characters are doing. So it starts with Silver making himself essential to Flint and Eleanor. And Jack is told to make it right after he lost the pearls from his crew. Flint entrusts the wounded Guthrie, his care, to his lover Barlow. And then Jack makes the big movement of the session, of the episode. He tries to get all the PCs to be on the same side.
Oh man, this is obvious. The guy who plays Jack, I think, really he came from a more like team-focused RPG play. Maybe he came from another play group. He's like, guys, we need to get together. So this was
Yeah,
where he made his.
I like to imagine Jack's players like, "Oh, I'm going to get all the PCs together," and the MC just goes, "Yes, tell me about your plan. This sounds great."
Oh man, yeah, so great. So a couple of observations that I had about this episode is once we've defined who our player characters are, there are several vignettes of kind of NPCs doing stuff to move the plot along or acting on behalf of the PCs. Gage, who's the first mate for Flint, is doing a lot of stuff to try to set up this meeting because Jack Rackham's he's effectively manipulated Gage into wanting this meeting to take place, and there are some other things where they're trying to ferret out the possible mutineers, some other things that are going on with NPCs. Hornigal and Gage. Hornigal's invited. Hornigal, I think, is a really cool character. He's the guy who's the master of the fort, and the fort protects the entire island. And I like Hornigal. You like him a lot, right, Josh?
I love Hornigal. Hornigal is a Jacobite, or Jacobin, sorry. So everyone else is like, I'm a pirate, and he's on the losing side of a dynastic struggle and happened to be the captain of a ship at the time. So he took the ship and left, or actually, I believe he took the fort and left is the strong implication. So he's this really weird situation where everyone else is like, oh, we're pirates, we're going to steal stuff. And he's like, I'm temporarily a pirate until we can get James back on the throne, and that's looking less and less likely. So it's a really cool character that isn't very central to things and isn't a PC. So
I think I think it's a player who showed up who you thought was joining the game like 3 sessions in. He wasn't part of the world building, but the MC let him carve out his own little thing, and then all of a sudden, scheduling difficulties, he didn't show up again.
That sounds likely.
So, you had an observation on why it was that we had a bunch of NPC scenes. What was that, Josh?
We have a lot of NPC scenes because Max's player is late to the session. She only gets in about halfway through, and Anne's player couldn't make it at all. She's not there. All Anne does in this entire episode is look at people surly and kind of growl a bit. So those guys just aren't involved in this episode. If this were PTA, we'd talk about how they have a screen presence of 1, but this is Apocalypse World, so they didn't show up.
So true, so true. All right, so now we'll talk about one cool scene, and you've set this up perfectly. This was definitely the scene of the episode. There's one other Fallout scene from this, but this is the scene of the whole episode. So tell us about this meeting of the minds, the gathering of the party here. Right.
So Jack is desperate to make it up to his crew and get them on the right side of this giant prize heist that they're going after. So he makes this desperate play to unite all the PCs under one banner. He talks to Gage to get Flint into the room, and he gets Eleanor and Vane, and by implication, Anne, who works for Vane. And he's just going to get everybody to be on the same team. And he's got the proposition that Vane's ship will accompany Flint's ship to hunt down the Urka, and they will all do it together. Yeah. And Apocalypse World is not that game. Apocalypse World is just the game where everybody has their own agendas, everyone has their own stories, and they happen to intersect. They do not go parallel. Or if they do go parallel, it's only for a very short amount of time. But the interesting thing, Apocalypse World-wise for me here, is what the MC does around this scene. So because teaming up with Vane will piss off Flint, the MC is all for this meeting happening. The MC is all for putting everybody in the same room. The MC is all for making them work together because it will challenge Flint. So up until the meeting happens, the MC uses Gage, uses Billy, uses a number of other NPCs to push for this scene to happen. Jack then makes, I don't even know what role, but he makes a fantastic role and or petitions the other PCs just right, and everyone signs on. And the moment that happens, the MC says, okay, great, now I'm going to tear it down. Because that's all the MC's job is just to keep churning all the setting elements and keep everything moving. So as soon as that alliance is struck, the MC turns around and reveals that Vane has captured Max and is keeping her in a shack and letting his crew have their way with her to punish her for screwing them over, which she didn't do, let's be clear. But they need a scapegoat, and so the MC just reveals that that's Max is the scapegoat for the crew. I like to imagine that this is what the MC explained as Max was sitting down at the table.
She just shows up. She's like, I'm sorry, guys. Here's some beer and some pretzels. Like, I'm sorry I'm late. Okay, so where am I at?
You're in a shack. So, yeah.
Bound and naked. Yeah.
Bound and naked. And I like to hope that there was a Lines and Veils discussion at some point before this happened. Let's just throw that on the table and not have to go into the details of what that means. But some heavy, heavy stuff goes on. And I hope the players all agreed that was a safe place to go, where they would all support each other telling that story. But yeah, that's what happens around that big scene, is that the MC strives to make it happen and then strives to take it all apart. And as a direct consequence of that, Rich, what's your favorite scene here?
What I love about the direct consequence is the other really cool scene. As you described, things get torn apart as Vane's treachery by holding Max is revealed to Eleanor, who was starting to show feelings towards Vane. And there was actually an intimate moment one of the few of the whole show. And she comes out and sees Max is being taken serious advantage of. And Eleanor's the hard holder. She runs the island. And she says to the whole crew, after beating a couple of them with an oar to help save Max, she says, "You're all done. You're finished. You can't buy anything here as long as you serve him." And she points to Vane. Vane, who, remember, is not a player character, but he's a threat. He's a serious front kind of threat, kind of dangerous guy. And she just strips him. She says, "If you go and you work for Flint, then you can continue doing what you want to do. But if you continue to work for him, there is nothing for you here." And pretty much stripped away the entire crew from Vane. It was horrific for him. and what was neat was he just stood there and took it. You know, he really was not necessarily the bad guy. He was going to set her free. And we'll talk about why that is in a sec. But yeah, it was pretty ugly for him. Good thing he's an NPC. But
also a really powerful scene, and really cool seeing Eleanor flex her muscles like that.
Yeah. I mean, she showed guts also with her father in this same episode, which was pretty cool. But that didn't necessarily go entirely her way. So, did we see any cool PC? Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was saying also true. It was total filler. Move on.
There's a lot of filler in this episode. Did we see any PC moves?
One of my favorites here is one of those more or less filler, kind of an ancillary scene where Silver is trying to find... Silver's made himself essential to Flint, so he's still on the ship and he still gets to live. But he wants to consolidate that safety, so he goes about and tries to find what mutineers remain in the crew. And he does it by approaching Randall, who has been knocked silly. He's obviously got some sort of brain injury or something. He's the cook of the ship. Everyone still values him, so they keep him around, but he's definitely like, he's the cook and he stays down below and he doesn't participate in the actual piratey things. But he's a member of the crew, and he's been a member of the crew for a long, long time. So Silver goes to him, and he more or less just asks him who the mutineers are. And I was trying to figure out what exactly is the Battle Babe move that he's using, or what basic move is he using. And I couldn't come up with anything until I realized how weird this scene is, because Randall is weird. He is, like, off in interesting ways. And so I finally realized, yeah, it's a weird scene because he's rolling weird, because for this scene at least, Randall is the psychic maelstrom. He is like the representation of everything that's broken and wrong in the world that they live in, because this is what happens to people, is they're beaten in the head and then they're thrown down below decks to be the cook because people still love them, but they're not the whole man that they used to be. So Silver rolls weird and opens his brain to the psychic maelstrom and asks for the mutineers. And the mutineers are just delivered to him. He's just directed exactly to where he wants to go, and he finds his mutineers. So that's an interesting wrinkle on how to do your psychic maelstrom.
It is. I think that's something to be learned, because a lot of times people take the psychic maelstrom to a pretty gonzo place. And it doesn't have to be. You know, it could be something that's people speaking for the weird. So that I like that interpretation. The other move, which we alluded to earlier, is Max, who was in deep doo-doo with Vane and his crew. Vane comes in to talk to her, and she uses hypnotic. She's a Skinner. We defined Max as a Skinner. She used hypnotic. She had time and solitude with Vane, and she just uttered like one sentence. He's asking her, why did you leave the safety of Eleanor? Why'd you leave the hard holder to come out here? And, you know, I had to do this to you, right? Because my crew is pissed off on what you did to us. She said, well, how did it feel when she cast you aside? And that was all it took. And Vane walked right back out and ordered his operator, poor old Dracum, who said, we need to take care of her. He said, yep, take care of her. Get her out of here. And he said, what? What? When I said take care of her, I meant kill that player character because she's not here right now. Oh, wait, she had shown up. But anyway, kill that player character because she never shows up for it. No. But take care of her. And he says, do it at night. Don't get caught.
And the thing I like about this is that, sure, it's the Skinner, and it's the Skinner using a Skinner move, hypnotic, but she does it in a totally non-sexy way, right? The Skinner doesn't have to be sexy all the time. The Skinner's the one who understands people. And so, yeah, Max does it in one line. How did it feel when you were thrown aside by Eleanor? Boom. You want to help me now. And she picks that item off of the hypnotic list of results. Helps me with what I want right now. Boom, done.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, so next, did we see any MC moves or hard moves?
So we have the big negotiation scene. And we have Vane and Flint trying to come to an accord. Eleanor is not really sure if she wants this to happen or not. She's not sure which result is going to benefit her the most. And Rackham sees that it's sort of teetering, and so he's going to milk this for something else. He's trying to get information out of Eleanor, and specifically where her father is and how available he is to back her up. And he's trying to kind of root out the source of her power and gauge how strong she really is. And he fails that, and as for the MC's move in response, he does something interesting. He has Vane stand up and say, yeah, sure, this works for me. I accept all of these terms. Let's do it. And in so doing, he completely deflates Jack's ability or opportunity to get information, right? So Jack's not going to get what he wanted, but still the scene is moving forward and the story is moving forward and something interesting is happening. So that was a nice fail move to be made there.
And it wasn't out of left field. What was brilliant about it from an MC perspective is it was reincorporating, because earlier Rackham had manipulated Vane to go to the meeting at all by saying, listen, I'm not talking about the millions of pieces of 8. I wouldn't come to you with just money. I think you can get the favor of Eleanor by helping her out here. And so that's exactly what Vane is going for when the MC says, oh, you failed your manipulation role, or you're trying to read a person here. I think both of those were kind of going. Maybe you blew both of them. And there's the hard move. It's like, we're done. Shake and spit on it. It's good. I don't think the player for Jack had very good die rolls.
No.
Because
Jack has great. Well, Jack did convince all the PCs to align. So, I mean, there's some success there. But whenever Jack has to roll cool, he fails, which is amusing because he's an operator, and that's probably one of his high stats.
Yeah. He had to keep getting like snake eyes or something. So I see the moment when we talked about Vane saying, hey, get Max out of here, do it at night. I'd love to see that go to the dice. So I think the MC said, all right, Rackham, give me an act under fire to get her out of sight, out of mind, so that she can escape. And he bones it, right? Or what do you think? Maybe he got a mixed result, but the mixed result was, as he's walking out, the crew, the guys who'd already threatened him because he'd lost the pearls in the last episode or the last session, they're like, no, she's not leaving. And he basically just like, you can fight them. And he says, no, I'm not gonna fight these guys.
You can fight your way out. Or the offer that the MC might have made is also like, you can get Max out, but you're not coming back to the crew if you do.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's the hard choice. And the
Yeah.
choice he made was hand her over and run get Vane, who was who had just finished sleeping with Eleanor. Surprise, surprise, as the hard holder decided to jump his bones. And that led to, and I'm sorry if it's, it's a gallows humor, but to me, it was the funniest line of the entire episode. When Rackham comes running up, first you hear a woman screaming in the background. And you know it's Max because like I had a feeling it was Max immediately. And of course, plot-wise, you know it is. And Rackham comes running up to the tent, throws the flap of the tent back and says, "Captain, the men need you now." Looks, sees Eleanor right there with Vane, and immediately says, "Oh, shit." And that's what led to Eleanor destroying Vane, destroying him. Oh, that was such a neat little moves snowball there. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I think you had one other pretty cool hard move or MC move.
At the very end of this episode, Flint gets back to Barlow, his lover, on the farm, and he finds her sharing Aurelius' philosophy book with Guthrie, who she's supposed to be standing guard over, and so it's this nice. It's a small MC move that he's just okay. Yeah, you put one NPC in the care of another NPC. I'm going to fuck with that. So there you go. They are maybe coming together in ways that you don't want them to work together.
Yeah,
I
thought that's clever because it isn't guns a-blazing, crazy sex time. It's very subtle, but it absolutely needles that this is a thing that you held sacred. And it's kind of a big motivator for why Flint's doing all the evil crap he is as a pirate. Yes. All right. Any last things about episode 3 of Black Sails?
No. It's not one of my favorite episodes, but it's the second half is one of my favorite half of an episodes. So yeah. It's one of those. It goes to a good place eventually.
It does. It's almost one of those, like, if you didn't feel like every episode had to be certain length and you could just prune all that stuff away, it would have been a great episode. Awesome. So let's talk about our jogging. Josh, how are things coming along? You are dialing in, man. You're getting closer and closer to your half marathon. How's it coming?
Oh, no. Half marathon was yesterday.
Oh my gosh, how did you do?
Well, I finished, which was, the real goal there, my first half marathon. I finished at 2 hours, 37 minutes, which is like a little over 12 minutes a mile, which is, good enough. I was telling myself as I was running it, like, I just need to finish my first one, and then I have a time to beat for the next one. I'm not trying to get a good time now. I just want to finish. And yeah, 13 miles is a long way to run. It is long enough, is enough mileage that when you're done, your shoulders hurt.
Yep.
So I spent the rest of that day and most of today not doing anything strenuous. But yeah, I did it. I finished. Felt great. I had a serotonin high for about 24 hours after it, which, nothing was wrong with the world. Everything was manageable. Don't worry about it. This is awesome, which was nice. If it didn't wreck me, I think I would run a half marathon every other day just to have that serotonin high. So, yeah. How about yourself? How was your running?
Oh, my running's good. First, I just want to say, Josh, way to go. Congratulations. Note on the shoulders thing, I had the same issue. What you want to do is, like, every couple miles, just shake your arms out, because what you're doing, at least this is what I was doing, you're doing this, and that's why your shoulders are hurt. The problem I was having, I would, like, wake up at night when I try to roll over, and my shoulders were so sore, it would wake me up in pain.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I'm an idiot. But if you just shake it out for, like, I don't know, 30 seconds while you're jogging or walk, whatever, whatever pace you feel comfortable with switching that up. Try to do it every couple miles, and you should be able to keep that tension in your muscle lighten up a little bit.
Cool, thanks.
So I accidentally did almost a half marathon Saturday. Yeah. So I'll see if I can Reader's Digest it. But there is a really awesome running group that meets up every Saturday. They meet up all throughout the week. It's called Personal Running Solutions. But Saturday's the big run, and it's the long run. And at 5 a.m., people who want to run 12 miles will meet up, and they've marked out a 12-mile course. At 6 a.m., you get together to run 6 miles. And I was like, I'm not in half marathon shape right now. So I showed up at 6 a.m. and show up at 6 a.m. I run out and do the first 2 miles, water break. Second 2 miles, I'm at 4 miles, water break. I've got my headset in. I'm kind of half listening to people. It's like 50 people got together. It was almost like a 5K, except as people were jogging, they were all talking because it was all relaxed, whatever, kind of thing. And I didn't really know this neighborhood. And I overheard 2 of the guys talking. And one of them said, yeah, if you just go right here, it's 4 miles back. And I'm like, well, I've done 4. I could do 4 more. 8 sounds good. I'm feeling good. So I start jogging after I had that water break. And there are a few people ahead of me. And I see they've actually put out signs because that's one of the things that PRS does. So I'm just jogging along. I'm like, I'm not great with compass directions, and I'm not sure where I'm at, but this doesn't feel like it's heading in the direction towards my car. But there are people ahead of me. There are arrows. I'll just keep going. And I was on the 12-mile path, which was an out and back. So I hit the last sign, and the girl stops ahead of me, and it says, this is a turnaround for 12 miles. And I'm like, shit, I'm 6 miles away from my car. I guess I'm doing 12 miles today. So, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, and it was a lonely second half of the run because everybody who started off when I did, even if they were slow, they were way done because they turned the hell around at like 3 miles, So yeah, it was a lonely run. Like I'm coming back at one of the water stops and they look at me like, did he pass out and show up? Like, why is he here? Are you okay? Do you need water? Do you need Gatorade?
I just got lost.
That's why I said I'm fine. I'm just I got lost. I'm okay. So that was my accidental 12 miles.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's the next goal for you, Josh?
I'm running another half marathon in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, the Tinkerbell half marathon, in which I will be cosplaying as Fairy Gary. Is in 2 weeks on Mother's Day weekend. So yeah, I'm going to taper off as much as I can and kind of do just a few maintenance runs in between now and then do it all again in costume with fairy wings and mutton chops. So that'll be fun.
That's cool. You have to take a picture and share it with me.
Oh yes, there will be pictures. My wife is going to be dressed as Fairy Mary, and my daughter will be Silver Mist, because we go all out.
That's awesome. A family that runs together. I'm so proud of you. That's so cool.
Thank you, sir. What about you? Where's your milestones? What are you doing next?
Doing the 12 was exactly the mistake I needed, man. That's the most I've run this year. I really have been slowly building myself up and kind of being a wimp about it, honestly, because I just did 12 miles and I was a little sore. So obviously I was being chicken-hearted. So I'm going to start lengthening out my runs, and I'm going to be looking for a half marathon. So I'll let you know.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah, someday I'll do another marathon, but not anytime soon because it was not fun. It's not fun. You do it because you feel like, there's nothing.
Having done a half, I'm like, yeah, I can see how a marathon is A, possible, and B, not actually going to be fun. But I still want to do it. Just so that I have done it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'd be like, well, I got to beat that original time.
It's a disease.
All right. Well, congrats, Josh. I'm so proud of you, man. And
thank you.
And so thanks everybody who's checking this out. If you have any feedback about Black Sails, Apocalypse World, and running, let us know. And you guys have a great night.
Woo!